He once gave a starving boy a loaf of bread. 10 years later, that same boy returned, not with empty hands, but with a gift that would change the old man's life forever. The streets were unusually quiet that winter evening. The sky was painted in dull shades of gray, and a cold wind swept through the narrow lanes of the town. Mr. Harold, a retired schoolteacher in his 70s, walked slowly with a cloth bag of groceries in hand. His life was calm and predictable: morning walks, tea at noon, reading books, and the occasional chat with his neighbors. But that day, something different caught his attention. Outside a small bakery, sitting on the edge of a stone step, was a young boy. He couldn't have been more than 10 years old. His clothes were torn, his cheeks hollow, and his eyes, dark and tired, stared blankly at the glass window where warm bread sat on display. Harold paused. People passed by without a second glance. Some even stepped further away, as if poverty could spread like a disease. But Harold saw something else. That boy reminded him of one of his former students, lost, quiet, and hungry for more than just food. Without saying a word, Harold stepped into the bakery and bought 2 loaves of fresh bread. He walked over to the boy and gently handed him one. "Here, take this. Eat while it's warm," he said softly. The boy looked up, surprised. His lips trembled, not used to kindness. With both hands he accepted the bread and stared at Harold as if he couldn't believe someone had noticed him. "Thank you," he whispered, voice barely audible. Harold smiled, gave the boy a gentle nod, and continued on his way. He didn't ask for the boy's name, didn't expect anything in return. It was just a moment, quiet, simple, and kind. He didn't know that this small act would ripple across time and return to him in the most unexpected way. Days turned into weeks, and winter slowly loosened its grip on the town. Mr. Harold resumed his daily walks, but he found himself glancing toward the bakery more often than before. The boy was always there, never begging, just quietly sitting, observing the world as it hurried past him. Harold began bringing an extra sandwich or a piece of fruit in his pocket. Each day, he would silently hand it to the boy, who would accept it with the same wide-eyed gratitude and quiet "Thank you." They never exchanged names, never asked questions. It was a wordless connection built on mutual understanding. Harold offered food, the boy offered a quiet sense of presence in return. On one particular afternoon, as Harold approached with a thermos of hot tea and a slice of cake, he found the boy already waiting with a small, folded piece of paper in his hand. He hesitated before handing it to Harold, his fingers shaking slightly. Harold opened it, revealing a crude drawing of 2 stick figures, one old, one young, sitting under a tree, sharing food. It was simple, almost childlike, but it struck Harold deeply. It wasn't just a thank you. It was a memory, captured with innocence and honesty. Harold patted the boy's shoulder and smiled, this time letting the silence stretch between them a little longer. There was no need for words. Something deeper was being said in the quiet moments they shared. That day, Harold realized this boy was no longer just a stranger on the street. He had become a part of his life in a quiet, invisible way. Though he still didn't know the boy's name, he felt as if he'd known him forever. What Harold couldn't see yet was how this bond would one day save his life. One chilly morning, Mr. Harold followed his usual routine: warm coat, scarf, a thermos of tea in one hand and a wrap sandwich in the other. He turned the corner near the bakery, expecting to see the boy on the familiar bench, quietly waiting. But the bench was empty. He paused, confused, scanning the street. Maybe the boy was running late. He waited. 10 minutes. Then 20. Still, no sign. For the first time in months, Harold's day felt incomplete. As hours passed, a strange unease crept into his chest. The next day, and the next after that, still no sign of the boy. He asked the bakery owner and nearby shopkeepers, but no one knew anything. "That quiet boy?" one vendor said. "Haven't seen him in days." Harold even walked down alleys and searched near shelters, hoping for a glimpse. But it was as if the boy had vanished into thin air. The once comforting silence of his afternoon walks now felt heavy, filled with worry and emptiness. Harold kept carrying extra food every day, placing it on the bench just in case. The sandwiches remained untouched, slowly growing stale in the cold air. Still, he returned, day after day, holding on to hope. Then, one morning, something changed. A folded piece of paper lay on the bench where the boy used to sit. With trembling hands, Harold opened it. It was another drawing, this time, only the old man under the tree, alone. In the corner, scribbled in faded pencil, were the words, "I have to go." "Thank you." Harold sat down slowly, eyes stinging. He hadn't realized how much the boy had filled the silent corners of his heart. The streets felt colder now, not because of the weather, but because something precious had quietly slipped away. Weeks turned into months. The boy never returned, but Mr. Harold never stopped visiting the bench. It had become a quiet ritual now, a silent conversation with someone who was no longer there. One rainy afternoon, Harold sat beneath his umbrella, watching the drops fall in rhythmic patterns. His heart still carried the ache of unanswered questions. Where had the boy gone? Was he safe? Why had he left without a proper goodbye? One day, as Harold was closing his umbrella and preparing to leave, a young woman approached him, holding the hand of a small child. "Excuse me," she said gently. "Are you Mr. Harold?" He nodded, startled. She smiled, a little nervously. "I'm sorry for the sudden visit. I'm the sister of the boy who used to sit here. His name was Amir." The name struck Harold like lightning. He had never known the boy's name. The woman continued, her eyes soft with memory. "Amir spoke about you every day when he came home. He used to say, 'The old man with the kind eyes always brings me food without asking questions.' You became a part of his world, a safe part." Harold swallowed the lump in his throat. "Where is he now?" he asked. The woman's expression darkened slightly. "He fell ill. That's why he stopped coming. We moved to another city for his treatment. He didn't make it." Her voice cracked, and the little boy at her side clung tighter to her hand. Tears filled Harold's eyes. She reached into her bag and handed him a folded, wrinkled paper. "He drew this for you before he passed." It was a sketch of the two of them, sitting side by side on the bench, smiling. That day, Harold cried not just for loss, but for love found in silence. The world felt quieter after that day. Harold sat on the bench, Amir's drawing clutched in his trembling hands, the paper worn yet full of life. The sketch captured more than just two figures. It held a memory, a bond, and a kind of love that had silently bloomed between two strangers. He had never known how deeply Amir had felt it too, but now it was clear. That little boy, with his shy eyes and warm smile, had seen Harold not as an old man, but as a friend. And in return, Harold had found something he hadn't known he was missing: purpose. Weeks later, the young woman returned with a small box. "Amir asked me to give this to you, if anything ever happened," she said quietly. Inside was a worn notebook. Each page was filled with sketches, of birds, trees, people passing by, and many of Harold himself. On one page, Amir had written in big, careful letters, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else did." Harold's hands shook as he turned the pages. It was as if Amir's voice still lingered there. That moment, something shifted in Harold. He decided the story couldn't end here, not with sorrow, but with meaning. He approached a local community center and donated the drawings, sharing Amir's story with them. They turned it into a small exhibition. Through a boy's eyes. Children came, parents cried, and strangers were moved by the quiet friendship that had blossomed on a park bench. Years passed, but Harold never missed a day on that bench. Now, children often sat beside him, sketching, asking questions, listening. Amir may have left the world early, but the treasure he left behind, a simple act of kindness, had changed it forever. And Harold? He was never alone again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, share, and hit subscribe for more emotional tales on human fables. Let's keep these powerful stories alive. Join the Human Fables family today.